Muri Zimbabwe, high alert, power struggle in Harare. Is Zimbabwe heading for another 2017 moment? Right, Zimbabwe is once again standing on the edge of a political cliff, behind the polished speeches, carefully worded press statements, and tightly controlled state media narratives. A fierce and dangerous power struggle is unfolding at the very top of the government. At the center of it all are two men whose alliance once defined the country's post-Mugabe era, President Emerson Mnangagwa and Vice President Chiwenga. Now, that alliance appears to be collapsing. Reports emerging from credible outlets like the Newshawks, along with whispers from insiders within the ruling establishment, suggest that Mnangagwa is preparing for one of the boldest and riskiest moves of his presidency, firing Chiwenga and purging perceived opponents within government. If true, this would not just be a cabinet reshuffle, it would be a political earthquake. So let's talk about the purge strategy, consolidation or desperation. To understand what is happening now, you have to look at the pattern, not just the headlines. Over the past few months, there has been a steady and calculated removal of key figures from strategic positions. Tina Isaac Moyo, head of the Central Intelligence Organization, quietly removed after reported internal tensions. Jesima Jome, dismissed from a role despite her institutional importance. Increasing pressure on senior officials seen as unreliable or insufficiently loyal. Individually, these events might seem routine. Governments reshuffle, officials come and go. But together, they paint a different picture. This is not routine governance. This is consolidation of power. And at the center of that consolidation is one key objective: securing Mnangagwa's controversial push to extend his rule beyond 2028 through the proposed CAB 3 Constitutional Amendment Bill. Right, Mure Zimbabwe, the legal weapon. Attorney General steps into politics. One of the most unusual and telling developments in the unfolding drama is the increasingly visible role of Attorney General. Traditionally, Mure Zimbabwe, he is expected to remain within the legal domain. The office is now reportedly advising on how to manage political dissent within government itself. This includes crafting legal justifications for dismissing senior officials, defining limits on what ministers and vice presidents can say publicly, proving a framework to discipline those who contradict the president. This shift signals something deeper, Zimbabwe. The law is no longer just a neutral instrument of governance. It is becoming a political tool. And in high-stakes power struggles, whoever controls the legal narrative often controls the outcome. At the heart of Mnangagwa's concern is not just political opposition from outside government, but resistance from within, specifically from individuals tied to the military establishment. This includes retired generals now serving in cabinet, security-linked officials with deep institutional influence, figures believed to align more closely with Chiwenga than with Mnangagwa. So, their alleged crime, refusing either openly or quietly to support the Agenda 2030. This is where things become dangerous. Because Zimbabwe's political system is not purely civilian. It is deeply intertwined with military power, and any attempt to sideline that power does not go unanswered. Right, Tine Shadow, 2017. To understand why this moment feels so volatile, you have to go back to one defining event: 2017 Zimbabwe military intervention. In November 2017, the military stepped in to remove long-time leader Robert Mugabe. At the time, the official narrative avoided calling it a coup. It was framed as a military-assisted transition, but everyone understood what had happened. And at the center of that operation was none other than Constantino Chiwenga. He was not just a participant, he was the architect. Right, let's talk about the trigger then and the warning now. What triggered the 2017 intervention? Many analysts point to one critical moment: the perceived threat against Chiwenga himself. When reports emerged that he could be arrested upon returning from China, the military moved swiftly. It was seen as crossing a red line. Now, fast forward to 2026. Analysts are warning that firing Chiwenga could represent a similar or even more serious provocation, because this time the stakes are higher. The factions are more entrenched. The trust between leaders is already broken. And unlike 2017, where the target was an aging leader losing control, today's confrontation is between two power centers still deeply embedded in the system. A matter of survival, no politics. For the military-linked function, this is no longer just about policy disagreements. It is about survival. If Mnangagwa succeeds in removing Chiwenga and sidelining military-aligned figures, it could mean loss of influence within government, exposure to political or legal retaliation, permanent marginalization from national decision-making. In such situations, Zimbabwe, history shows that institutions rarely go quietly. They respond, sometimes forcefully. Right. Let's talk about the silence that speaks volumes. Perhaps the most chilling aspect of the current situation is not what is being said, but what is not being said. Mnangagwa's faction has been active, state media messaging, public endorsements, controlled narratives, but the Chiwenga aligned faction almost completely silent. No press conferences, no public statements, no visible counter campaign. And in politics, especially in Zimbabwe, silence is rarely a sign of weakness. More often, it is a sign of preparation. Two power centers, one state. Right, Zimbabwe now appears to be operating with two parallel centers of power. The presidential camp, which is one, controls state media, influences legal institutions, drives the 2030 agenda. And then the second, the military-linked camp, holds deep institutional power, maintains loyalty within security structures, operates largely behind the scenes. This duality is inherently unstable because eventually one side must dominate or both collapse. What happens if Chiwenga is fired? Oh, that's the billion-dollar question, Zimbabwe. If Mnangagwa goes ahead with the dismissal, several scenarios could unfold. Scenario 1, controlled transition. Chiwenga is removed quietly, military leadership accepts the decision, Mnangagwa consolidates power. Likelihood low. Why? Because it assumes cooperation where there is already deep mistrust. And then there's scenario number 2, internal power struggle, increased factional conflict within government, institutional paralysis, economic instability worsens. Likelihood very high. This is already happening to some extent. Right. And then there's scenario number 3, military intervention. Security forces steps in to restore order. Leadership reshuffle occurs outside constitutional processes. Likelihood uncertain but real. History shows this is not unprecedented. And then scenario number 4, negotiated settlement. Behind the scenes deal between factions, power sharing or compromise arrangement. Likelihood very possible. Possible. But requires trust, and that is currently in short supply. So, what's the role of ordinary Zimbabweans in all of this? While elites battle for control, ordinary citizens are watching, often with a mix of fear, frustration, and fatigue, because regardless of who wins, the economy remains fragile, public services are under strain, political instability affects everyday life. For many, the question is no longer who leads, it is whether stability will return. Regional and international implications. This is not just a domestic issue, Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe's stability matters to the region. Neighboring countries monitor closely. Investors react quickly to instability. Diplomatic relations can shift. A repeat of 2017 or something more chaotic would send shockwaves beyond Zimbabwe's borders. Right now, Zimbabwe is in a high-stakes game of political chess. Every move matters. Every miscalculation carries consequences. Mnangagwa's reported plan to fire Chiwenga could be a masterstroke of control, or the move that triggers a chain of reaction he cannot control. The next few weeks are a defining moment. All indicators suggest that the coming weeks will be decisive. Key signs to watch: sudden cabinet changes. Takatoiona mswa 1, mswa 30, very effective mswa 1. Increase the military's visibility, legal actions against senior officials, shifts in state media messaging. These will not just be political developments, there will be signals of which direction the country is heading. Right, Tichivara, all of this, Zimbabwe. My final thought. Zimbabwe has been here before. Different faces, similar tensions. The lesson from 2017 is clear. When political power struggles intersect with military interests, outcomes can change overnight. The question now is not whether something will happen, it is how far it will go, and whether Zimbabwe emerges more stable, more divided, or fundamentally changed. One thing is certain, this is no ordinary political moment. This is a turning point. Muri Zimbabwe, vana vefu tiripo pano pamuzinda wevanhu kubva kuvanhu by public demand. Kana usati wasubscribed, please do so now. Like and share the video. The more Zimbabwe know what's happening, the more it will be hard for them to do dark stuff in the dark, because status warner. So thank you for watching. Peace.